Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. We're back at Barra's Art and Design. I'm Paul John Dykes and I'm delighted to be joined by Tommy Sheridan this week, where we'll be talking to CHLOÉ CRAIG. Welcome to Barra's Art and Design, CHLOÉ. And we're sitting here in the heart of the Barras, just a stone's throw from the Barrowlands, the famous Barrowland Ballroom. Are you a gig goer yourself?
I am, yes, but I would say this is the first time I've been in here.
Cracking venue, eh?
It is, it's really nice.
Yeah, and this isn't a plant, but in between the New Balance logo and the Celtic crest is Rod Stewart. He's a pal of yours, eh?
Good pal of mine. So we go down many roads with him.
How's the finger?
It's getting there. I still have a little bit of trouble with it, especially when it comes into the winter. It goes like stone cold freezing.
But tell me a minute.
Do you know the story?
Well, this is what I'm just going to say, because a lot of people listening aren't going to know the story. So you two can't assume that everybody knows this story. So
I'll tell the story then.
You tell.
Talk about it on Alan Carr, didn't he?
Yes. So basically the story was I went to go see Rod Stewart and halfway during the gig he punts
Where was it?
the hydro. So he punts like mitre balls. So I went, right, I fancy my chances here. So I turned and I was like, right, okay, there's massive space. So me being me, I just went into the middle and just started like, waving my hands. And sure as God, he kicks one right to me. But as I've caught it, my fingers went right back. But at the time, like, your adrenaline's going, so you're like, oh, it's fine, it's just staved. Like, no. Next morning, I woke up and it was black and blue.
Oh, no.
So I went to the hospital, fractured.
Now, he's obviously found out that you play for Celtic because he incorrectly said it was a Celtic goalie that caught the ball. Am I right?
Yep.
Did he get in touch with you?
No.
Are we no?
Not a thing.
Nothing?
Nope.
Rodney, come on.
I know.
His
Yeah,
name's
that's
Rod.
something.
I thought I was going to get something.
Get that sorted. And was it one finger or two?
Just one. Just one.
Are you a fan, Tommy?
Listen, as I grew up, obviously I'm considerably older than CHLOÉ, but as growing up, Rod was part of my life. I mean, you know, all his songs were rites of passage. First cut is the deepest. You know, that was just
Maggie May.
And then, to be honest, one of his most famous songs, which recently got a bit of extra publicity that didn't get the credit it deserved at the time, because it was really trailblazing, was The Killing of George.
Yeah.
Because the guy's singing about a gay man and a gay friendship at a time when being gay was still very much persona non grata, and it was a trailblazing song, a beautiful song, absolutely beautiful song. I love it. It's one of my favourites. But when he said, I don't know if he did it at the concert, I went to see him at, believe it or not, the Pavilion, which is no longer, no, not the Pavilion, what's the one up the main street?
Before my
the
time.
Apollo.
Before my
The
time.
Apollo. The Apollo. It's closed now. I went to see him in Apollo in '79, and then I went to see him at Hampden, and he always changes the words to the song about his first love and all that. And it's always your Celtic United. They're the best teams I've ever seen, rather than Celtic United. But you're the best team I've ever seen. So there you go.
We were talking there about Tommy growing up and Rod Stewart being a constant. Was it a bit like that with yourself in Celtic when you were growing up?
When I think back of where it started with me with Celtic, it was always when you would go up to the Celtic store and get your new strip. And one that sticks out for me is, I can't remember what year it was, but it was like the yellow NTL Umbro.
Yep.
And Henrik Larsson drives up. And for the first time, that's me meeting him, but also seeing a Ferrari at the same time. I'm like, why has he got like a weird car? But at that time, Ferraris and whatnot, like supercars, were never like much of a thing. But that was my first like highlight of like, wow, I've just met like a Celtic player. And then from then on, it was just me, Celtic daft, going to the games like with my dad. And I think he was the one that kind of like strung the football on after his career.
What age would you have been then, CHLOÉ?
I don't know, about 8 or 7 or 8 or something like that.
Probably. I mean, I just love that.
It's a great team to be introduced to as well, though, boy, if you think about it, you know, a winning team.
Like, compared to now, back then is like my favourite teams.
Yeah.
I think there was like a lot more interesting in the way they played and the excitement around it. Just something that I miss these days.
You know the thing as well, though, even that story of going up to Celtic Park, getting your jersey, meeting Henrik, what's changed between then and now, Tommy, is the fact that it's not something that you can just hope for your son to do, to pull on the hoops for real. you can hope for that for your daughter as well. And it
Absolutely.
just shows you in that space of time how much things have changed.
How did you be honest here? At first, when your dad was taking you to the games and trying to get you involved, was there any resistance for you, or did you embrace it right away?
No, I embraced it straight away.
Right.
It was as if like I was like born into it. But for me, back many years ago now, I never knew that there was anything such as women's football. So for me, it was always turning up, looking onto a pitch and saying, I wish I was there. Like, I wish I could do that.
What a dream come true it must have been. But again, for anybody who has not been made aware, your old fella was a professional footballer of many clubs. I remember Albert playing for Partick Thistle. That was, when I was growing up, it was Partick Thistle. But let's go back a wee bit further before your time, actually, boy. 1987, Tommy, Ibrox, Scottish Cup, and Hamilton Accies beat them 1-0. You remember it because your big pal was the captain, Jerry Collins.
Yeah. And a certain man scored.
Yeah.
So, do you know, I was playing football last night at Nella Craig's with a group of guys, and some of them are blue noses. And I said that, we've got a great guest coming on our show. We've got CHLOÉ Craig from Celtic coming on. And this guy says, oh, is her dad Albert Craig? And I said, aye. She says, oh, I don't like him. He scored against us with Hamilton. So it's notorious.
They call it the Hamilton fans call it Adrian Sprott Day, and obviously it was a big upset. But at that time, obviously, it was a giant killing escapade that they still talk about all these years later. Playing football, how big an influence was your dad then?
Oh, massive. He was the one that would take me to training straight from his work, and then getting home at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, and then he's up for work the next morning. But I think that was also like a drive for me because I seen someone putting the effort in to help me be better and follow my dreams. So it was kind of like try to repay that in some aspect.
In terms of when you say repay it, do you mean that when it came to things like training, that you put the effort in?
Like you show up, you turn up, and you give what you can to now be in the position where I am just now.
But you never took up your dad's position. You became a defender. Was that always a defender, or did you start trying midfield or up front?
I actually don't really know. I think I was just put into defence and then I just enjoyed it. I have played midfield. Not for me.
Right.
Not for me. I just don't know where I'm going. No.
Do you like to have the game in front of you?
Yeah. I like to step into it.
Yeah.
And when I did, a few seasons ago, it was pre-season, we played Tottenham. And I played midfield, and it was just some urge of wanting to go back and defend. When the ball was in there, like final third, I was just like, no, but I need to go back. But then I found myself being in a position because I'm in defence when I should be in midfield.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been defence.
Like a natural defender.
Yeah.
But you like scoring a goal as well.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Come back to that.
We had an amazing guest in here just a few weeks ago, Rose Riley, right? And she was an inspiring individual, unbelievable. And we'll come back to the fact that she's now an ambassador. But she spoke, CHLOÉ, about the challenges she faced when she wanted to play football as a kid, to the point where she had to pretend that she was Ross Riley. What kind of challenges did you have?
I wouldn't necessarily say I had a lot. I was the only female within the boys' team at that point in time. But for me, there was never really any backlash of being a girl. If anything, it was always tackle her, because not to push the boat or that. I was a really good player, and I did stand out on the boys' team.
What school was this at?
Well, this was the local team. It was Patrick, and then that folded, and then it went to Clydeside Boys.
Okay. So you actually played with Clydeside Boys?
Yeah.
Great.
So then after that, I went straight into women's football. So I never really back then. It wasn't really fond of people getting abuse or getting bullied just because you were either male or female. So I think I would like to say I kind of missed that era.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't as bad.
I'd already turned a corner.
Yeah.
You're speaking there about going up to Celtic Park, watching the team. Henrik Larsson, he was my hero as well. Still is, actually. And at what point do you then get an approach from Celtic? How does that happen for you?
Well, it was actually one Christmas, and then I opened your presents as you do, and I pulled out a pair of black socks, and I'm like, right, okay, like knee-high socks, and I was like, right, okay, that's a bit weird. And then I was like, thanks very much. And then then it was just black Nike shorts, and I'm like, where's this going?
Right.
And then it was a green, just a plain green and black Nike top. And then I was like, what's going on here? And my mum and my dad turned around and said, you've got a trial for Celtic.
Brilliant. What a way to let you know.
And I was like, what? And I failed to believe it, because still back then I had never heard of women's football.
Right.
And I was like, how did you get that? Blah, blah, blah. And obviously my dad knows or knew the late Tommy Burns. And he was the one that got me in for a trial.
Tommy keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Every time we speak to
Yep.
somebody,
DNA,
Tommy
the club.
Burns
DNA.
Yep.
keeps coming up. What an influence. And he got you the trial.
Yeah.
What
Did you
age
get a
were
chance to
what
see him?
age are you at this time?
I want to say I was about 14, 15. I think that's the age you have to transition into from male to female football.
Right, okay.
I never had the chance to meet him, Tommy.
I've met so many people who were good pals of his. Albert being one of them, Shug Farrow, as you know.
Yeah.
All of them just sing his praises as a beautiful person. And my wife in particular, she loves him because he was very holy. My wife's
Yeah.
very holy, and he was really, really, his faith meant a lot to him, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you're 14, 15, Christmas, and were they in different packets? Unless I'm going to have to take my hat off to your mum and dad for that. That's a fantastic way
What
to
Christmas?
It wasn't
merge
just
all that.
like, oh, you've got a child. It was like, try and get
Fabulous.
away to
Fabulous.
try and figure out what it is.
But that I thought that was interesting because at this time, Chloe, I didn't know this until I'd done a wee bit of research on it, and you'd made the point that when you first go to Celtic girls, Celtic women, you've not even got a crest. It's just a green jersey. There's
that
no,
right?
Yep.
there's no Celtic crest.
Nope.
Right.
When did that change?
Right, so when I arrived, actually my first night, it was a game, a friendly against the Hibs at Barfield. And it was just the plain hoops with just the Celtic badge right in the middle and the black Nike tick. And that was the night that I scored. So Brian Delaney at the time, he was down watching, and he turned to Kaylee Cameron, who was my coach at that time, and says, sign her. So they signed me, and I was like, oh, right, okay, like, we're going to be in at the park, like, we're going to get all like the Celtic gear. No,
Nothing.
It was just all either plain black and green. That was it, like not a Celtic badge, nothing. It was as if you just went to, I don't know, a Sports Direct and just bought like a top, shorts and socks.
So this was that your trial game? This one that
Yeah.
you scored in. What? Sorry to be asked in
No.
detail, but did you play defence and score?
Defence,
There you go. So you started off
Yeah.
the way you went on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Uh-huh.
Brilliant.
But then I don't really know when it started to change. I would want to say when I hit like 16, maybe 16, 17, and then as the year finishes and the new season starts, you get all your kit, and then it was like your Celtic badge, and I was like, all right.
Brilliant.
And then you start to get your initials on your kit, and I was like, okay, this feels like a little bit more like a
Profession.
club.
Brilliant.
Well, this is the thing. You've seen the progression from that to the club being a professional football club, and not many have come through that transition. Was there anybody back then who started the club with you now?
Not from way back then. No, it's just me. Me and Kelly Clark, one of my best friends. She's been there for near enough as long as what I have been. So I think we signed her like a good over 10 years ago as well. So she knows what it's like to be at nothing to everything now. And it is like a big jump, but it just shows how far the women's game has grown within just Scotland, never mind like anywhere else. And for us, that's a big thing because we've seen it when we've had nothing, and now anything that we asked for, or it's just been given to us. So
Where was Kelly playing before
she was playing at Forfar.
Right. Okay.
So at that time, my coach, Brian, he phoned me, he was like, we're really interested in getting Kelly in. And I was like, oh, well, she's my best pal. And she's like, I know, that's why we're
So
playing
you
you.
were pals before she
Uh-huh.
came, right?
So I met Kelly at Scotland camp.
I see.
And then
right.
like we just became best friends. And I was like, right, so why are you phoning me? It's like, well, we need you to talk to her because coaches can't speak to players like that are in contract.
Yeah.
And they're like, but don't tell her that we want to speak to her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, right, okay. So I'm pacing up and down my room being like, how am I going to go about this? Being like, Celtic are interested in you, but I can't actually go out and see it. And I was like, oh, bugger it. Just phoned her and went, Celtic are interested in you. They want a chat. She's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, blah, blah, blah. Then the rest is history. And then she came to the club.
You know, the fact that it took a while for Celtic to, I'm not saying take it seriously, Chloe, but become professional. I think that it created an opportunity for somebody to step in. And I think Glasgow City, when you look at what they became, they were a powerhouse. They are a very, very strong club. And what I find incredible about them is they don't have a men's team to tag onto with regards to like a fan base.
Yep.
You look at Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, they've got a fan base already that they can tap into. For anybody who's not been following women's football, could you just explain the powerhouse that is Glasgow City? And obviously, when you're a footballer becoming professional, you think to yourself, we're going to have to knock them off the top.
Well, they were always the team that you would be dreading playing. Like you said, they've not got a backing. So they've funded themselves as a team and people have bought into them. The fans have bought into them. So they've really created themselves up. Whereas like a Celtic or Rangers, they've kind of built the foundation already. So you're just adding on to it. So for them, it must be such a great achievement and great relief that they can say that they've been there, they've done that, and they've risen their club up. But for them, for what they've done and coming from nothing to being champions of the, what was it, 12 years in a row, 11 years in a row, something like that, to then playing in the Champions League when at that point in time Celtic and Rangers were nowhere near it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big statement to them. But then it also gave Celtic and Rangers and other teams like a kind of kick up the butt to be like, right, we need to be there, we need to be in competition with them.
Definitely.
Which now, thankfully, within the past few years has started. And I would say this season was probably one of the most exciting ones because more teams are putting money into their clubs because they know that they could achieve so much more. I always remember when I was in a meeting years ago and it was all about like profit or like we can buy such and such for like $1,000 and then we can sell them on for millions, but whereas for women it's not really like that. So it is sometimes hard for clubs to put into women that can't really give back, as in money wise.
I've been looking at it probably more closely since COVID, watching games, covering games.
Same.
And I think that you know, when you look at the progression even from then in the last say 4 or 5 years of the Celtic team, whereby you're getting to know more of the names, Tommy, you're getting to understand how there's a philosophy. And I'm not sure, and you can correct me obviously, but I think Fran Alonso had a big part to do with getting people's buy-in. And I don't know if it's because there was a character there, a personality, he had charisma, there was a passion on the sidelines. And a lot of Celtic fans I know that got into the women's game was around about that period. I think Fran had a lot to do with that.
I would also say that a lot of people that I've spoken to, the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, they've said that they've watched that and they've took like a shock and a surprise in how well the women can play and how hard they are compared to the men footballers, because sometimes you get a touch and then they're on the ground, whereas us when we like a good proper challenge. But Fran did play a lot on where we are today. I would say he started the foundation, and then we tried to build on that. And like you said, he has got like a good character, like on the pitch, on the sideline. He was all about Celtic and being together and like being one. And I think that's where it started, like where our journey really started. So he has a great relationship with Celtic and with us as players, and we have a lot to thank him for.
Yeah. I mean, I remember looking at him thinking, how does he get this? You know, because he had no connection to Celtic. Comes to the football club and he's got that passion on the sidelines. he wore a really natty blazer. It was a white one as well, so he had a bit of style. Maybe some people don't think that style. You clearly don't. And then I was looking at some of the people now, because it's changing so much, that you bring from overseas. Are you regarded as one of those players, like in the dressing room, who has to be the senior pro to let them understand what playing for Celtic's all about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even to this day, we still do. Obviously, we have a lot of foreigners. I would say you can count on your hand how many Scottish players that we have in our team. So for us, for new people coming in, we're like, you need to know the history. Like, do you know this guy? No. So then we sit and be like, oh, this is Henrik Larsson, this is Billy McNeil, blah blah blah, and so on. So for us, it's important for us to tell them the club's history and what it means to be Celtic and how it feels to put the shirt on, because it's not just like any other team. Like, especially when you go out and you're playing Rangers, it's not just a kickabout. It's like you're going in there for war and fight and kick. And
See, I
get
love
what you
this.
can.
I have to interrupt you because I love this, because I'm dying to ask about that rivalry, because I've watched some of your games and they're meaty challenges going in. And there's
It
a wee bit
follows
of,
on for the-
there's also a wee bit of naughtiness as well. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
is it like that?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, right.
Yep, and
okay,
that's what we fight for.
right.
It's amazing.
Okay.
See, when you're in the dressing room, Chloe, I mean, I was speaking to you before we went live here about penalty kicks, and we'll get back to that. I wouldn't have the nerve to take a penalty kick in a game against Rangers, for example. See, when you're in the dressing room before a game like that, can you look round and sense who the Warriors are and who might need to get a wee arm round the shoulder?
So before like our big games, we normally get up and one person would like give a speech to try and hype everybody up. Like, girls, we need to like, turn up, we need to fight for each other, we're playing for each other out there, we're playing for the club, we're playing for the badge. And that kind of gets everybody up, and then we get like a video shown with like the dramatic music, and then you get the shivers up, and you're like, right, okay, it's go time. And then by that time, when the video is done, we're walking to the tunnel. So it's just like, it's like the edge of, right, okay, enough talking, let's go out there and get it done.
I remember the real buzz around getting behind the team, Tommy. A big part of that, I think, was playing at Celtic Park.
Yeah.
Right? Now, just walking up or walking down London Road and seeing that stadium, I get a buzz. You'll be the same. You walk up the steps, you get a buzz. Talk us through actually playing there for a fan who you've already spoken about, you know, going up to Celtic Park as a fan and getting your jerseys, and then you have that opportunity as a player. Talk us through that.
It's incredible because, like I said, when I was younger, I always looked onto the pitch saying, I wish I could do that. And at that point in time, I knew I couldn't. And then obviously for me to walk through the tunnel, it was kind of one of those moments, it was like, I made it. Like, I've done it, if that makes sense. Because to me, yeah, you can get like stadiums like the Bernabeu, blah, 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 like these big, massive stadiums. But for me, if there was one stadium that I would want to play at, it'd be Celtic Park. And to do that numerous of times, it just becomes your home. Like, it becomes like a familiar place. So walking out and seeing the fans and hearing the fans, just like many greats have done that have walked through the Parkhead gates, it's incredible. It's like as if you've made your history. You've done it on your own.
And you were breaking records with attendances.
Yeah.
1 minute you're getting 10,000, then it was
Seven-
over 14.
yeah.
It's incredible. And the ultras got right into it as well, didn't they? How did that feel, having like, you know, the Celtic end and it was the ultras and that sea of colour?
I always remember we walked at the tunnel, it was like a big banner, it was like, come on you girls in green. And I was like, oh wow, like they've really been out for us. Like sometimes they might just bring like their flags and whatnot, but this was like massive. And then the full side of that stadium was covered. I was like, you couldn't see anything. But it was to the point when we were on the pitch, and now me and Kelly are like this width apart, and I was like, Kelly, I can't hear what you're saying because it was that loud. So we were screaming at each other. I was like, I can't hear you. And then manager at the time was like screaming on me, like, we're just going to have to like guess what he's saying. But for them to be there cheering us on, it felt wholesome to us, because it felt as if they were actually there for Celtic and not just to turn up and support the girls.
You know, honestly though, I think they're going to try and do it again at some point. And when we talk about European games, I know you've had to upgrade stadium-wise and move where you play your home games, etc. Would it be great for you, do you think a step in the right direction would be to play more games at Celtic Park?
I'd love that. I think when you see the women's game grown down in the WSL,
Yeah.
like for Arsenal, for instance, their home games are at the Emirates. And for us to be able to make that step up here would be incredible. And I think it would be a huge statement to football up in Scotland that we are trying to be one club, and not like the men are here and the women's are just at like a random stadium. For us, it would be good to play at like a home field that we know that's ours and we know what we're walking through. Like when we walk through the doors, we know that we're playing for the badge. And when you walk through and you see the statues, the jerseys from the history makers, it does bring that little bit of a buzz and that little hunger and passion to, right, okay, let's go. Like this is our home. Nobody like beats us or takes a point from us like here. So it would be amazing, but hopefully in the future it was something that we would look into.
Hopefully in my lifetime. You're talking about the legends of the past, Tommy, and we talk about Celtic players, goal scorers, and those that have scored over 100 goals.
Well,
You know how many?
You mentioned earlier one of our fantastic guests recently was Rose Riley. Whose
Yes.
story until like a few years ago, I didn't even know, right? And
Sensational.
total ignorance, and I'm really ashamed of it because Scottish legend, absolute Scottish icon and living legend. And I've got to say, you are right up there, Chloe, as far as she's concerned. What was she like?
She name checked you.
Name checked you. She says that one of the biggest disappointments of the first Champions League game was that you're not available, because she said she'd done so much to get them to that stage. She was heartbroken that you couldn't play. So talk us through the injury before we get to the stat that we all want to get to. Talk us through that injury.
So for me, it was the day that we were travelling to Champions League. So we were training in the morning. So I'm turning up with my suitcase, ready to fly off, play Champions League. And then 20 minutes into training, I reach for the ball and my standing leg, which is my left leg, just caves, my knee caves in, and then my foot goes the opposite way. And it was one of those ones straight away you knew what it was. But you also do have that, oh, maybe I'm okay, maybe it's just like the initial shock of it. But then as I stood up, I was like, no, I was like, I've done.
Was this on grass?
On grass at Barrafield, yeah. I was like, no, I've definitely done my knee. But I always remember like Kelly and some of the other girls were like surrounding me, but I was like holding on to them for like dear life.
And was it dead innocuous? It was just like you stretching for a pass or something like that?
It's something that I've done thousands of times. Thousands of times. But I just took that one time.
Oh.
But you could say the what ifs, or what if I didn't do that, or what if I done something different, or what if Elena at the time blew the whistle earlier, like, do you know what I mean? Like, what if I ate something? I don't know. Like, you could always say what ifs, but I've tried not to do that now, because it is what it is. It's done.
What was the actual diagnosis? What actually said?
My ACL, my MCL, and meniscus. So went out with a bang. So I had to reconstruct my ACL with my patella ligament.
And have they done that now? Have they
Done that now, yep. 4 weeks ago yesterday.
Right.
So that's all done and dusted. But I would say the period of doing it to getting surgery was the hardest part, because you're waiting for the surgery, and then by that time I'm able to walk on it. I can do this, I can do that. And then when the surgery's done, it's like you're back to not being able to walk. Right. So it's like back to square one. And then after I got surgery, I would say it was tough. The first 2 weeks were tough, and I would say actually this week is probably the week where I've actually felt okay, because I can get up, I can move, I can do stuff on my own.
Okay.
Whereas before it was like, oh, could you get that? Or when I was in at Parkhead, it was like, girls, could you get my lunch? Or if Dad, can you pick me up? Like, I don't like to rely on people too much, because then when it comes to, let's say, I need to push myself, and I was like, I need to rely on somebody to push me, but I want to do it off my own back.
What about your teammates? How supportive have they been?
Amazing. I can't fault them, honestly. For me, they've been a big step and a big help, especially checking in and checking up on me and making me go out for coffee and inviting me over to like the Celtic houses and saying I can stay. At the time when I'd done it, obviously the girls had flew out, but some of the injured girls had stayed, and we went over to the Celtic houses and I stayed like with them for the whole entire time until they were back. So they were always on FaceTime, and I done it on the Monday and my birthday was the Wednesday.
Oh, for God's sake.
And that's when we were playing the Champions League. So I always thought, oh, wait
You're
for
going to be playing the
Champions
Champions League
League.
on your birthday?
Playing
Yeah.
Champions League, my birthday, we're going to win. We did win. And I was like, it's going to be amazing. And then my injury happens.
But you'll be back, and that was the big thing
course.
Rose was saying, you know, that you'll be back and you'll enjoy it in seasons to come, because obviously we've done so well. I don't want to jump so far ahead because I want to talk about the impact of Elena coming in. And she's got an incredible story as well, Tony. You know?
Yep. Well, Rose mentioned it quite a lot. Very young. Seems to be full of ideas, full of energy. Obviously, you've already talked about Fran, so that he's a big loss. But she seems to be filling that vacuum.
It's good because she's played football before, so she gets the side of it as a female. So, like, whereas some people say, like, you can't really approach, like, male managers with, like, certain stuff, but whereas with her, you can go up and she'll understand it. I think it's different as well because this is her first professional team that she's actually at first team level that she's coached, and I think it's interesting with her philosophy and Celtic's philosophy. So for us, it's interesting, but she's absolutely mental in a good way. But she is always there, like if you need help or if you need advice or guidance, like she will be there to help it. And she, even though she gets at Celtic like what Fran did, they might not have been born into it, but everyone knows who Celtic is. No, like if you go abroad, everyone knows Celtic, so they know how big it is as a team and as a club. So for her, for MD that's coming in as a manager, you're always that little worry, oh, will they get it? But luckily she does. So for that, for us, that was like a good stepping stone for us, like for her coming in.
And her career was finished through bad injury as well. So I'm kind of guessing that she's appreciative of that for you in your situation.
So when I done it, she's been there and she's like talked me through, you're going to feel this, you're going to be lonely in times, you're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows. And then she told me the other day actually she's done it 3 times.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What, the ligament injury 3 times?
ACL, yeah, she's done it 3 times. And I was like, I applaud you because this has been hell. So she's been there and she's been helping me, guiding me and checking up on me, just making sure that I'm okay, and if I need anything that she's there. But hearing her experience, it gives me a little boost because I know that she's came back from it.
Yeah.
And even some of the girls in the team, they've come back from it as well.
Right.
So when I'm sitting in the stands and I'm sitting there being like, oh, I can never do that, and I'm like, but wait, they've done their ACL. I was like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Good.
And I said this to them the other week. I was like, you're like role models to me.
Good.
And it's weird to say that because I'm in the same team as them. You normally get like little girls looking up to you as role models. But for me, they're my role models because I'm the one sitting in the stands watching them. I've seen them come through. I've helped them come through the injury, and now they're doing that for me.
Great.
So
That's great.
now when I see them, I'm like, I can do that and I can be where they are.
What a strength, though, you know, your gaffer coming through it 3 times, and probably in her 20s it would have been. Do you look at her now and think, well, you're similar ages, she's moved on to the coaching. Do you see a wee bit of that in yourself?
Oh, my mum and dad always say that to me, like, do you fancy coaching? But for me, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe not yet, Chloe, because you still see so many things you want to achieve in your playing career. But your experience, the vast experience that you've got, you must put that to good use.
When people say, would you like to go into coaching? If I was to coach, for me being a Celtic girl, it would only be for Celtic, I think. I don't know. I think it'd be a good story if you played at Celtic, you've come up through the ranks, and then you're a coach at Celtic. That would probably be like an ambition if that's what I wanted to go for.
Okay.
But for now, it's just trying to get through this injury.
You can see that hardness when Elena's being interviewed. There was one recently where she shot down the interviewer.
Yes.
So it's interesting to hear that she's actually behind the scenes. Maybe not always like that, but there is a hardness about her, isn't there?
Or she knows when to be friendly, but she knows like when it's like business, which is good because some people can be either too much of the one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, she knows like when to be serious and when she can have a laugh.
It's not easy to check the record books for Celtic women, as easy as it is for the men's team at the moment. Hopefully that changes. But the fact that you were there as they were just, you know, being formed, and you've been there for so long, you played over 250 games, you might be the records appearance holder. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I am, yeah.
Yeah?
But I don't know, I think Kelly might overtake me this season maybe
Right.
because of my injury.
So it's almost like the Forrest and McGregor dynamic of the
Yep.
men's team. That's yourself and your good pal Kelly. But as well as that, you scored over 100 goals for defence, which is remarkable, right? So I was looking at that record of there are now 31 players who have scored 100 or more goals for Celtic. And the latest additions to that is yourself and James Forrest. And you're in a list that includes Henrik Larsson, who you spoke about earlier. It's incredible. I mean, that kind of accolade, talking to you about it just now, you seem a wee bit relaxed about it. I mean, that's incredible that you're the only female in that list.
Well, I never actually knew that until you mentioned that earlier. But yeah, it's incredible, especially being a girl that was like, I can never make it as a footballer to now being a professional footballer. And like you said with James Forrest, like he's like a homegrown hero. So I've done what he's done, and then obviously Henrik Larsson was someone that I looked up to, and being on a list the exact same as him is actually quite like it's not shocking, but it's like,
It's fairy
can
tale
you believe
stuff.
it?
Oh, it's
Do
fairy
you know what I
tale.
mean? Like you would never think you're going to be added to something.
You're
big.
brought up as and you love Celtic as a kid. You didn't think there was a pathway for you to become a player. You've became a player, and now you've actually entered a club that is so exclusive that you're the only one in it. Because she's the only female to score 100 goals, 250 performances, but then go even further as far as this particular statistic is concerned. She's in the 100 club, but she's the only defender in the 100 club.
Only defender.
The only defender with 100 goals. I mean, brilliant, Chloe. It's just incredible achievement, pal. Brilliant.
And you know this when people say about penalties, because they've actually started talking about non-penalty goals, haven't they? NPGs.
Right.
Doesn't matter to me. Scoring a penalty is it's more difficult because of the nerve behind it. Do you practice? You must practice. You don't.
Yep.
I was going to ask you that, and I said to Chloe before the show started that I hope I don't jinx you here, because I was watching a lot of your penalties, and nearly all of the ones I watched, you went to the same corner, right? The problem with the keepers were, even though they guessed right, Chloe had them so near to the post, it didn't matter that they'd guessed right. But then I watched your first one against Rangers, and you went down the middle. So what was going through your mind? Because incredibly, as part of this story, Chloe didn't know until I think a couple of days before the Rangers game, you were on 98.
Yeah.
And somebody says to you, didn't they, oh, you'll score 2 goals against Rangers? And you thought, no, that's rubbish.
It was actually my dad.
Was it your
My
dad?
dad, the kit man.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Talk me through it. You're coming up to take the penalty. It's your 99th goal.
Well, at first I was like, right, we're never getting, like, what's going to happen here? Where we're going to get this goal from? Then obviously we got the penalty. I was like, oh no, it's me. So I stepped up, and nowadays you get like goalkeepers that have got like the names on their bottle and the goal left or right or whatnot. And I was like, don't know if Rangers do that system, but I do know that if they analyses each team that they come up against. So I was like, she knows where I'm going.
Right.
So for me, I was like, I need to change something up, or I need to get this bang in like the bottom corner. So for me, I was just like, no, I'm going to reverse it, and I'll go somewhere that she doesn't think I'm going to go. And that first time, going down the middle, and she dives to where I normally hit the ball. So that was fine, but then it was the second penalty. When we got in, I was like, what am I doing now? And I actually don't even think I knew until I put my last foot down.
Where you were going to hit it.
Aye.
So you hadn't even...
No. Yeah.
I suppose I've heard you talk about it before, Chloe, and you say that it's important not to overthink it.
Yeah. Because one time I did do it, and I was like, right, I'm going to go right. And I said it the day before the game. I was like, I'm going to go right. So then when I stepped up to take it the day after, I was like, I'm going right. I've said it all along, I'm going to go right. And then when I went right, it got saved. So then I went, I'm not doing that again. I was like, see, when I step up, I'm just going to go my normal side. Don't change it. And then when I got the second penalty, I was like, don't think about it, just change, like, just keep it to normal. And I went, just...
She guessed the right area.
She guessed it right, but I
was
just got it to the
close.
corner.
It was so near to the post. The keeper made a good dive, but it still went in. Brilliant. The problem is, I know you've said it was a wee bit bittersweet because you scored 100 goals, but you didn't win the game.
Yeah.
But that should never take the gloss
No.
off of an achievement like that.
No.
And especially scoring 2 goals against them,
Yeah.
like especially penalties, it's
Scoring against Rangers, I mean,
and being a defender as
oh
well.
no, I know. That's what you grow up dreaming of. But see, when you're looking at any footballer who's played for a football club for the length of time that you have, if for example, we are talking about Callum McGregor, which we will be in a couple of years' time, Tommy, everybody would be expecting a testimonial game. They would be expecting it. So on the one hand, we're talking about equality between men's and women's football. But then on the other hand, I've not really heard any mention of a testimonial for the likes of yourself. You've been at Celtic now for 15 years. You've played through what could be described as the lean years as well, you know, before pre-professional, without the same kind of success that we're enjoying now. Is there anything on the horizon in relation to a testimonial?
No, it's been mentioned, but I don't know if Celtic are. Obviously, it's different between men and a women, like male and female football. It comes with like the sponsorships and like people buying into it. For not that I've known, I've never heard of like a female having like a testimonial game, not up here anyway. Whereas if you have like James Forrest, who was the recent one, you get millions of people, thousands of people that would come to see him with all these historic players that have flew in and who he's played against and his favourite players. But for us, no, it's not much you hear of these days, to be fair.
You could break the mould though. There needs to be
You'd like to
somebody
think
needs to
so,
be the
yeah.
first.
The fans were the ones that actually brought it up. So they were the ones pushing for it and try to get the recognition for me and for Kelly as well, who's close behind me. But it's nice that the fans recognise it, and they're the ones that put it to Celtic, and then Celtic were like, right, okay, maybe we need to do something because people are now starting to catch on to it.
Yeah.
But I think if they did, it would be a good example and a good path within the club to actually be one and not just be Celtic men and Celtic women. It would just be Celtic.
Celtic.
Yeah, because we always hear about it, you know, in the modern game, Tommy, about, oh, it's a one-club man. You didn't see that very often. Here we've got a one-club woman.
Yep.
15 years, with more to come, because you're only 31. And I think it's something they need to consider. Who do you think were the unsung heroes of that? I've called it the lean years. That's maybe a wee bit unfair, but transitioning from part-time football to professional footballers. Because I'm looking at the career of David Haley, for example, who's had various different roles. Would you regard him as an unsung hero behind the scenes?
Yeah, he's been there from the get-go. So when I arrived at Celtic, I'm not entirely sure if he was there. At first he was kitman.
Right.
So he's had his, like you said, he's had his different roles. But I've had him as assistant, I've had him as manager, I've had him back as assistant, as kitman. So he knows what it's like to have nothing to now be where it is. So it's like me, him and Kelly are like the kind of ones that we've actually done it. So when we won like the cups and the titles, it's like that special moment that we three have, like to be like, look at what we are, like look at what we've done, like how far we've came.
You know, talking about the successes, right? Because we've got to touch on this. You win a game against Glasgow City in the Scottish Cup final. Were you setting a marker down there? Because we spoke about the domination. I think they won 15 out of 16 titles, right?
Yep.
They were the ones to catch, basically. And we didn't win the league under Fran, but the Scottish Cup final, we beat Glasgow City. Do you think that a lot of people stood up and took notice at that point?
Yeah, I think we knew ourselves that we were heading in the right direction. We knew we had good players and we knew that we could beat them. And it was maybe sometimes we just fell away previous games. But I think we had, at that time, where we were as a team, we had the belief and the confidence that we could go out and do it. And people always say, oh, what was your best accomplishment as in like winning a title? Obviously for me it would be the league, but they're like, right, but what cup? Because we've obviously won the Scottish Cup at Hampden as well. But for me it would be the one against Glasgow City, because we've never won. But well, at that point we'd never won a cup, and I had never won a cup. And for that to have the feeling that I had after the 90 minute, it was incredible. Like, but that just pushed you to want more. Like you wanted that feeling again. So then when it did happen again, you're like, right, okay, we're adding to this list. So hopefully we just continue.
You get a taste of success, and then before you know it becomes part of the culture.
Because we knew we could do it.
Yeah.
But it was just trying to get that first one over the line. and we know what it takes to be able to do that. Yeah.
And in terms of before you win the title, if I'm not mistaken, Chloe, correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember looking at the leagues and thinking, I mean, you were way off it for a few seasons, 17 points off it and all the rest of it. But then, did you know, lose a title in goals?
Yeah, it was last
Actual
year,
goal
last year
difference.
season.
So that you lose the title in goal difference, and then you win the title the next year.
Yeah.
But how does that feel? 1 goal.
So this is 2023.
Yeah.
You're beating Hearts 2-0.
Yep.
14,000, 17,000 at the game. And you're going to win the league because Glasgow City and Rangers are drawing nothing each.
Yep. It was
Talk us
like
through it.
the 89th minute or something like that.
Yeah.
So we scored our second goal. And I always remember Tash Flint, who was playing with us, was like, we need to know the score of the Rangers game. But at this point, I'm like, don't worry about the score, like, just do what you can. But then when you look up, you're like, it's the 80th minute, like, we need to know what's going on. So I shouted it at the crowd, and I was like, what's the Rangers
Really?
score? And they're like, no. And I was like, perfect. I was like, it's on their way, like, we've done it. And then we hear the Green Brigade and the full stadium erupting in the 89th minute, and I just looked at Kelly and Caitlin. I was like, we've done it. Like, we've done it. And then we got a corner, and David shouted over to Kelly and was like, and I'm like, Kelly, what does that mean? And you're like, they've just, like, the goal never counted.
Aye.
And I think, was it City did City score?
They scored in...
Rangers scored. Rangers scored, but it got
chopped off.
chopped off.
The only time you wanted the Rangers goal to count, Tommy.
I remember it. I remember watching because
Yep.
the games were on simultaneously. I can't remember whether it was BBC Alba or something, but it was on simultaneously. And I'm like, oh, yeah, beauty, yeah, bro. As you say, I was in the unaccomplished position of wanting the Rangers goal to count. I'm like, oh, please make it
I
count.
know.
It was the fact that the cup was in a taxi on the way to Parkhead, and then they had to turn it around and take it to that place.
How do you pick yourselves up from that?
It took a good while, especially having it there in your hands, like you'd done everything you could. We won the game, we had the perfect crowd and the perfect venue, and then just for it to be taken away within a minute, it was heartbreaking. So we knew coming into the next season what we had to do and not feel like that again.
You know, I was a bit concerned looking at the departures, you know, going into a new season, because on a Celtic state of mind, from time to time, Chloe, we do criticise the club, and we were kind of thinking, is the investment not there? We need to build on this. We almost did it, you know, and we showed that we can do it, and the fans are behind you because of the record attendance. But it seemed as though a lot of the, I'm going to say star players, well-known players, started to leave the football club. Was there any concerns during that period?
I think there always is when you see players that have left departure from the club. You always expect the players that are now coming in to fill their shoes, whereas some maybe don't, but then they might give you something else that you were missing that the other players couldn't. But of course, like, we always have our concerns, but when you gel as a team and you play as a team and you understand each other's pros and cons, you then build that relationship up to be at a standard where, right, okay, we can actually go for this. So it's part and parcel of the game. People come, people go. Do you know what I mean? People don't stay forever. Unlike myself and Kelly. Yeah.
A couple of these do.
But yeah, we do have our concerns, but when it comes to the management and them knowing how hard the league is, you kind of put your trust into them to get the right players to come in to challenge for Celtic.
What's different, do you think, between Elena and Fran? Both excellent coaches, successful coaches. What do you think has given you that extra wee bit that allowed you to go ahead and win the title?
Not entirely sure. If anything, I think us as a team, we've just became a whole. We know how to fight and grit and to get to the cup finals and get to the last minute games. For us, for them as coaching staff, we need to have that trust and be able to approach them in a way that if we see something going wrong or something going right, that we can go to them and say, we need to fix this, or we need to keep doing this because it's going right. Because when Elena came in, the first 2 games weren't that great. But then when we went to her and she was like, maybe try this is what we've done, like maybe like something last season, and then it worked. So it's trying to have that relationship and that balance of being able to understand each other and be able to help each other as coaching staff and on players. So for us, it's just really of being that net, like being like one, like I keep saying, because if you've got players on the pitch and players off the pitch that are on two different pages, it's not going to work. So it's just trying to be on the same page.
See, the world of a footballer, it's difficult to understand, Tommy, because you've got players who come and go, like you said, right? I mean, you'll be building friendships, next thing you know, they're out the door and in a different country. How does that work? Do you just stick to the unit that you're in, or do you keep the relationships going with people that leave the football club?
It really depends on your relationship when they were there. So for me, I still speak to Tash Flint, who now plays in America. You always have like your wee chats with like, people here, there and everywhere, like Shen, like she's away to Bayer Leverkusen, like you'd maybe see her pop up like, every now and then. But for me, it just depends on how tight your relationship was with them.
Because Tommy, you go to school and you stick together for 30 years later, but football's an unusual arena, isn't it? Because people come and go all the time.
I think what Chloe's saying there, but Paul John, I think it's the same with Orly's. We school friends, nursery friends, become friends for life. But then everything you do in your life, whether it's college, university, whether it's playing professional football or whether it's a factory, you build up new friends, and then you'll have neighbours that become friends.
Yeah.
But there's always a core set that are your absolute glue in your life. And you've talked about Kelly, you've been pals for so long, that's probably meant so much because she understands you.
Yeah.
She'll understand the pressures that you're going through as footballers. I mean, this is what I find incredible. Chloe, we've already tried to talk her into becoming a coach, but one of the things I would say about you, Chloe, having watched so many of your interviews, is you're a natural in front of the camera. You're very eloquent.
He's going to push into the media now.
I know.
No, but that part of eloquency and being able to communicate is essential with coaching skill.
Yeah.
Essential with coaching.
Yeah.
To make yourself understood. So, if there is such a thing as the badges and all the rest of it, and you get a chance, please don't turn it down. I think you should do it because I think you've got certainly one of those sets of talents that's required. Communication skills. You've got that. I'm sure you'll have all of the organisational skills because you've played football so often. And also being a defender, you're a natural in terms of reading the game. Because as a defender, you need to read the game, and that's probably what you're very good at.
I wouldn't necessarily. I like to read the game. I would say that's probably one of my
big strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then going back to the links of when players leave, at the time when I was there, it was like Megan Quinn was my captain, and she was there for a few years, but then she left, and now she plays for Hamilton.
Right.
But even when we have a success or achievement at Celtic, she always messages because she knows, because she's been there at a young age, so she's seen it. But then obviously she's dipped away, but then she can still look back. And for me, I was the only one that played with her that's in the team just now, so like she kind of gets it as well. But I always like called her Skip because she was like my first captain. So like for her, like between me and her, it's like that kind of like special bond, if that makes sense.
You know, there may not be the same kind of money at the moment in the women's game in Scotland, but see when you look at the Champions League games you have played, I've made a list here, there might have been more, but Levante, Minsk, Brøndby and Vålerenga. In terms of standard, what was the step up like? Because we talk about obviously playing the likes of Dortmund and Atalanta this week, and you can see that the standard is a different level. What's it like in the women's game?
The exact same.
Is it?
It's not just going to play like a Rangers or a Glasgow City at the weekend. It's like short, sharp passes.
Yeah.
But I would say when we just played Real Madrid, amazing team, out of this world. But for the standard that we play at, I would say we done all right. We done good. Everyone was happy on how we played. But for them, it's just a total different ball game.
So it's 1-0 at half time against Real Madrid, isn't it? And it was Caroline
Weir.
She a Fifer.
Yep.
She's maybe a Fifer.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Caroline Weir playing for Real Madrid, Tommy. She must be another kind of, for me, a role model for young kids coming through. Look what you can achieve. You can get a move to Madrid for playing. Who did she play for? Hibs, maybe?
Hibs.
Yeah. and you get a move to Madrid. So that's a pathway as well now for young girls coming through in Scotland, isn't it?
And especially going down south, because that's where she went from Scotland. She went down south and then got her big move. So I wouldn't say it's easy, but for women, I would say it's probably easier than what it is for a guy to be a professional footballer, because it's like, what if you don't make it by like 14, 15 in the men's game? You're kind of like, no, I don't think you'll ever make it. Whereas there's people that, I remember Jodie Bartle, who used to play with us, she was a teacher. And she was in her 20s, and then she started playing football, and then also became a professional footballer and left her teaching job.
Right.
So for us women, it's I would say it's easier, but I don't want to say easier.
I know
but
what you
it's
mean.
more,
Everything's relative.
Yeah.
Everything's relative, but relatively speaking, what about the fitness side of things, Chloe? Because obviously, I think the transformation in the women's game has been incredible. Because if you think 6, 7, 8 years ago to now, standards is just massively improved, much more competitive, much faster, much more aggressive. How do you guys keep your fitness up? What do you get trained really, really hard? I mean, do you compare it to the male pre-season stuff, or do you do the similar things?
I'd say it depends on your season before. So if you had a successful season, you know that teams are going to be trying to come after you, if that makes sense. So we know that they're going to be pushing to be better. So we know that, right, we need to be on top of it. We need to be better than them. So I don't necessarily say that we get like, right, you're running today. Yeah, we can do, but it's not like what it used to be. Because I remember when I was younger, we ran the full length of Parkhead, up and down every single step. Went to a boxing class that was inside like the stadium at the
You went up the
Tasters.
steps?
And then
Right.
it was right back out to the stadium, up, down the full circle of it.
That was the training.
That was like
But you were
training.
good at that because of your
Yeah.
post
yeah.
You did
But
it.
Under
at
the
that time,
tenements.
you never seen a ball. Like the full pre-season,
Right.
you never seen a ball, and we were like, what?
That was the old days, wasn't it? That was that. I mean,
But to be fair, that was when we were at our most like sharpest. Like I would say, back now, well, until now, that was probably the fittest I've ever been, because all we did was run, but at the same time you lose the ball, like the connection with the ball. So now it's trying to balance it with the running and the ball, and trying to be as fit as you can. But for us, I think it's the short and sharpness that you need. You could tell somebody to go run like 5k, 10k, or run the length of a pitch or do laps, but you could be fit like that. But then when it comes to the short and sharp games, it might take you a good 30 seconds to turn and get back, or do you know what I mean? It is different, but it's just you try to keep on top of the chase that you want to achieve when it comes to the end of the season.
You know, when you look at how you came through, what the pathway was like for yourself, and you now look at the academy route and you look at the investment up at Barrafield, could you explain to us the seismic change compared to when you were coming through to how it is now?
It's crazy. So obviously we never had a Celtic facility or Celtic home. It would be, you're going to train at a high school, but the pitch would be like a hockey pitch, but you're turning up with boots, whereas you would probably want to turn up in like the Astro trainers. So for us now, looking back, and I see the wee ones like running about with a Celtic kit, and I went, never had that. Like, and then sometimes like even like the boys, they get like the odd socks. So it's like one's white or one could be coloured, and it's like, right, you can only hit with your white sock.
Right.
You can only hit with your coloured sock. So looking back on it now, it's been a massive step within Celtic, and it shows that Celtic is interested in making the women's side of the history and the path bigger than what it used to be. And for them to do that, it's like we try to give back as to getting the titles and getting our name out there, like Champions League, and getting money back in so they can produce more money for us. So it is incredible, especially now that Barrafield's getting done. That hopefully that should be done in December, I think, maybe.
as soon as
So it's soon. So then for that to call our home is good, because right now we're going from Parkhead to Barrafield, Barrafield back to Parkhead. So to have everything in the one location, it'd be incredible.
I think when you look at, and it must be a good laugh and good crack to do the photo shoots and all that for kit launches, right? But when you look at the way that that's changed, not that long ago, you couldn't even buy a ladies' fit football jersey for any team in Scotland. So I think slowly but surely we're moving in the right direction. It feels like the Titanic, Tommy, that's actually turning, it's taking its time, but it will eventually become a natural thing, won't it? So when you see Callum McGregor with a league trophy outside Celtic Park, you'll also see your images of your successes as well. Do you think that's just round the corner where they don't have to be reminded about these things? It's just part and parcel with what Celtic
I'd like to think so, especially with the history that we're writing as a team. So for us, that would be incredible, but we're always chasing them as players to try and support us. So for that to happen, like you said, getting women's jerseys now, you find people come up being like, oh, I can't get your sponsors on the jerseys.
Yeah.
So that would probably be like another thing, because it's not just like the men's tops that you can go get. Like, if I wanted my specific top, I would need to get like our kit man. Can you print that like with all our sponsors, so you can't just go into the shop and buy that? But now on the website, in the drop down menu, you can get like the women's names, which is another stepping stone. But for us, it would be like going in and getting the original top that we wear, that fans can come and buy and turn up to games in.
It's definitely progress that now when they do the kit launches, the female players are part of that. And by the way, why not? Look at the number of female fans that go now.
Have you done a Christmas advert yet?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah, I did it last season.
Is that a good laugh as well?
Good.
You wait for it, don't you?
Well, they're fantastic.
It was good. It was a good laugh.
Funny. But the only wee thing I would need to say is it does become a pain, because I've got a daughter, and when I have to go and get the Celtic top, you know, small's no good enough. It's got to be extra small.
Yeah.
And she goes mental me to take a small back. I mean, bloody looks tiny enough as it is. But I love the fact that whereas in the past, having a daughter and trying to get her involved in Celtic was about being a fan.
Yeah.
Now it's about possibly being a
Yes,
player
player.
as well. I think that's just fantastic.
I know. I mean,
And one final wee point, Chloe, I wanted to ask, and this is probably silly, but when players sign for the club, they get to pick their numbers. I've noticed you're the number 6. Was that been by choice, or was that something that just because you were a defender you played number 6?
Think so. Back, a few years ago, I remember I used to be number 5 for a season, but that was when I first developed into the women's team. So I was like a newbie. I was like, I'll just take any number, but I always liked the number 6, and it's my favorite. Now it's my favorite number.
Brilliant.
So people always joke, oh, I'm going to tell so and so, like the new players, to take number 6. I went, look there. I was like, absolutely not. So for me, like, that's my number.
And you're quite proud about it.
Yeah.
And how many times? Because you've also captained the club so many times. How many? Do you know how many times you've captained?
No.
Because you've done it loads of times.
Yeah.
So, you know, captain, 100 goals, defender, legend, absolutely.
League winner.
League winner. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Been an absolute pleasure, Chloe. I hope you've enjoyed as well. Just as an aside, Chloe and I met years ago, but she was only a wee girl, because Albert used to bring her to the Dukla Pumferson games, and she had a football kit on. She always wanted to kick the ball. She was absolutely fanatic football-wise. So it's just magic to see you now, and you're actually a professional footballer.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
great pleasure.
I
Thanks for your
appreciate
time.
that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Get well soon as well.
Thank you. Hopefully.
Thanks again for joining us at Barra's Art and Design. What an incredible story Chloe has, and hopefully she'll recover soon from her injury. Join us again next Friday, for this is a Celtic State of Mind.